Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here and welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. I am excited to bring on the show today Adam Spinella, who is a contributor to BBallBreakdown.com and also Fast Model, but he's also a coach at Culver Military Academy in Indiana. So he has a very unique perspective similar to how I see the game. So Adam, thanks for coming on the show, and let's talk about your most recent article that you published today.
Sure. Thank you, Coach. Thanks for having me. And yeah, let's talk some Clippers.
Yeah. Well, the Clippers are obviously the big storyline right now, and they're leading the NBA in a lot of different categories. And so, when you were putting together your article, where did you think that you should start first when you wanted to kick off getting everyone acclimated to what they're doing on the court?
It had to start with the defense, Coach. They've done such a fantastic job this year at not just defending the rim, but they're one of the best defensive teams against a three-point shot. And I think the cyclical nature, and I try to talk about this in the article, between defense and offense is huge. That a good defense that they have limits the amount of really easy baskets that opponents get against them. But because they force turnovers, they get out in passing lanes, they have 3 or 4 different guys that can really pressure the ball on the perimeter. And because of that, they get easy offense opportunities in transition.
Well, let's talk about the 3 or 4 guys that can pressure. So we know about Chris Paul. We certainly know about DeAndre Jordan being that presence. The other 2 guys, who are we talking about?
Yeah, so one of them is Luc Richard Mbah-a-Moute, one of the more role players that they have, who started a lot of games for them last year, but has seemed a little bit different and more of a versatile defensive threat this year. Doc Rivers has used him a lot on opposing ball handlers. He did a great job against Damian Lillard last week with the Blazers game. And it's a unique threat because it allows Chris Paul to be more of a help defender, where he's also very, very strong, and gives the Clippers a chance to rest their primary ball handler on the defensive end a little bit more.
Wow. And I like that because it probably has a direct correlation between letting Chris Paul be off the ball a little bit and then him getting so many steals.
That's right, and having someone on the perimeter who can guard a guy 1 through 4 like Mbah-a-Moute can, he challenges the other team's best player, and that allows their major offensive threats to rest a little bit more on that end of the court.
I love it. I remember seeing him D up Kevin Durant really well in seasons past and thinking, this could be that defensive stopper guy in that almost that Tony Allen role who doesn't really score very much. But it does seem like Mbah-a-Moute is giving them enough on the offensive end now. And I think there's even a distinction. He's contributing. I saw him drive the baseline against Minnesota and score. And looks like he's hitting some threes in the corner too.
Yeah, he's done a great job on the corner 3 there, and I think anything you get from him is gravy. The Tony Allen comparison is great because of the Doc Rivers past with him in Boston. He's utilizing him in a lot of the same way, where instead of having Ray Allen or Rajon Rondo chase these guys around screens and have to work really hard on the defensive end, he throws a defensive stopper out there for 20, 25 minutes a night, and it really does the job and wears down those top guys.
Is there anybody else on the defensive side that stood out in your mind that maybe hadn't in the past?
Yeah, the one is Blake Griffin. He has made a lot of strides this year, in particular, on the defensive side of the ball. I think if you watch the San Antonio game from last weekend, they gave up 8 points in the first minute and a half and were really sluggish to start. They went on an 18-2 run from there on out and doubled up the Spurs by the end of the first quarter. And a lot of it was Blake on the defensive end, just challenging shots on the perimeter, forcing Pau Gasol or LaMarcus Aldridge to give up the ball or make poor decisions with it. It's an area where he hasn't been comfortable in the past. He does not always close out with hands high, and those are the little things that us coaches really get annoyed at. But it's something that he's improved at a little bit this year, and by doing some of those little things, he's been able to pressure opposing big men on the perimeter.
I got to jump into some more footage to watch because for sure in the past, what I've seen from him has been sort of a net zero almost, where he just didn't really make any plays, deflections or steals or anything. Like the rebounding tended to be there okay, but that sounds exciting to me if you're seeing some of that action where I guess what his man is having to think twice before throwing it. He's a little bit more pressure. His hands are more active, I guess is what we're going to see.
Yeah, and you talk about the 4 position being so important now because it's versatile both inside and out, and you have to be able to defend both spots on the court. Griffin is, as we know, a really, really strong guy down in the post and is hard to displace down there. But for him, it's always been effort and not athleticism or mobility on the perimeter. And I think Doc Rivers, year after year, has chipped away and is starting to get at him a little bit. So we'll hope and we'll see if it's sustainable over the course of a long, long season. But the first 10 games and 11 games have been really encouraging.
Absolutely. And, you know, a good start is really imperative because we're seeing that for other teams. Like New Orleans is 2-7 or 2-8, whatever they are. Like, they're probably done. And so you can see how important that is. This gives them some leeway to play with some things. Maybe they lose a game or two, but it won't kill them. I think the thing that we've seen in the past in the playoffs that's been a problem has been the bench. And I've actually been pretty impressed so far with seeing Spates out there. And Raymond Felton has sort of been a guy who, you know, it raises my eyebrows because I feel like he's making more plays this year. And I'm wondering how that came about and how he's able to do that in a situation where, you know, we just haven't seen that from him for a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is with Felton either. He was a guy that I think a lot of people wrote off during his time in Dallas, and he's been a guy who's perennially come in maybe a little bit overweight or not in great shape. He looks fantastic this year. He has been, for their second unit, a guy that they trust to pick up the ball full court and really turn guys and work really hard on the defensive end. He draws that top assignment for their second group, and that's a lot of trust from Doc Rivers.
So is this the year they're finally going to get some consistent bench production during the playoffs?
I like to think so. I think they have enough offensive firepower with that second group. Austin Rivers is a little streaky. Mo Spates can score. Jamal Crawford, we know what he can do off the bench. But to me, it's all about that defense and their ability to play 3 different guards and switch a bunch of different assignments, even switch 1 through 4 with Wesley Johnson. That's really, really big for them.
Are you seeing anything on the coaching side from Doc Rivers that seems noticeably different this year from either, you know, substitution patterns or what they're running? Is there anything that stands out in your mind?
Substitution pattern-wise, yes. He is really going with 2 distinct lineups and is trying to keep that bench unit 1 group of 5 and his starters another group of 5. There is some overlap within them, but I mean, he trusts having 5 bench guys on the floor at one time. And that's a lot of trust from a coach when you are not just a really good team, but a team with championship aspirations. Is you're going to go and roll out a lineup that has 0 starters on the floor.
Wow. Now, am I correct in saying that I haven't seen this yet? I haven't watched enough of the Clippers yet, but is he subbing 5 at a time?
Yeah, at times he will. Usually he plays it by feel. I know in the Spurs game that we were talking about earlier, he left Blake and DeAndre on the floor a little later into the first quarter and got the guards in there earlier. Usually he'll sub Crawford in for Mamamute a little earlier and get some fresh legs and a little more offense on there as the Clippers starters tend to tire a little bit. But yeah, he'll play a lot of those 5 and make a couple 5-on-5 substitutions, I believe. For
sure. Well, this all sounds really exciting, what's going on over here in Clipperland. And the Lakers are fun, too, so LA's got double the fun these days. And don't forget, sports fans, you got to head over to our .com to read Adam's article because it has even more insight and stats and clips for you to check out and really get caught up if you haven't been watching the Clippers enough, because it's all right there for you, as well as a lot of other articles we have every day being posted by some of the best analysts I can find online. It's terrific writing, and Adam, you are definitely a part of that family. We're really glad that we can have you part of it.
Well, thank you, Coach, and thank you for having me on tonight. I love talking basketball, and let's make sure we do it again sometime.
You got it. For sure, you're going to come back on the show. We'll talk more about the next thing you do. And don't forget to follow Adam on Twitter. You'll see it on the screen in the description below. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Adam?
I'm always in, Coach.